Most people think their biggest problem is a lack of discipline. It isn't. Their biggest problem is that they have learned to obey every feeling that appears inside them. They work when they feel motivated. They stop when they feel tired. They speak when they feel angry. They spend when they feel the urge. They seek attention when they feel ignored. They quit when the excitement disappears. And then they wonder why their lives never seem to move forward. The uncomfortable truth is that your feelings are not designed to build your future. They are designed to protect your present. Your brain wants comfort now. It wants the easy decision, the familiar routine, the quick pleasure, the immediate reward. It doesn't care that your bank account will still be empty 5 years from now. It doesn't care that your body will become weaker. It doesn't care that another year will pass while you keep saying, "I'll start tomorrow." It only asks one question: what feels better right now? And if you allow that question to control your life, you eventually become a prisoner of your own impulses. This is why discipline is not simply about working harder. It is about learning to separate what you want right now from what you actually want your life to become. The two are often completely different. You may want to stay in bed tonight, but you also want the strength that comes from keeping promises to yourself. You may want to spend the money today, but you also want financial freedom. You may want to avoid the difficult conversation, but you also want respect. You may want to open your phone for another hour, but you also want your time back. And this is where most people lose. Not because they don't know what to do, they lose because they keep negotiating with themselves. They say, "I'll do it after this. I'll start Monday. I'm too tired today. I deserve a break. Just one more episode. Just one more hour." The problem isn't the excuse. The problem is that every time you obey the excuse, you teach your brain something. You teach it, "My promises are negotiable." And once your brain learns that lesson, discipline becomes harder because you no longer trust yourself. You make a plan in the morning. By evening, you've broken it. You promise yourself you'll save money, then you spend it. You promise yourself you'll train, then you skip. You promise yourself you'll stop wasting time, then you open the same applications again, and eventually something dangerous happens. You stop believing your own promises. That is far more damaging than one missed workout or one wasted evening, because self-respect is built from evidence. Every time you do what you said you would do, you create evidence that you can trust yourself. Every time you surrender to an impulse, you create evidence in the opposite direction. This is why the ancient Stoics placed so much importance on self-command. They understood something modern society constantly tries to make us forget: a person who cannot command himself will eventually be commanded by something else. By pleasure, by fear, by money, by status, by other people's opinions, by anger, by comfort, by the endless demand for stimulation. And the more comfortable your life becomes, the easier it is to lose this battle without even noticing. You don't need someone to control you anymore. Your own impulses can do it for them. Think about how strange that is. You can be sitting alone in a room, completely free. No one is forcing you to pick up your phone. No one is forcing you to spend money. No one is forcing you to avoid your responsibilities. No one is forcing you to waste another night, and yet you do it. That is not freedom. That is dependence disguised as choice. Real freedom begins when you can experience an impulse without automatically obeying it. You feel anger, and you don't have to express it. You feel fear, and you don't have to run. You feel laziness, and you don't have to surrender. You feel the desire for pleasure, and you can still choose the harder path. That tiny space between feeling and action is where your power lives. Most people never develop that space. They feel something and immediately act. Emotion becomes behavior. Behavior becomes habit. Habit becomes character. And character eventually becomes destiny. That is why the battle for your future is rarely fought during dramatic moments. It is fought in ordinary moments nobody sees. When you wake up and don't want to get out of bed, when you know you should stop spending, when you know you should close the screen, when you know you should finish the work, when you know you should remain silent instead of reacting. Those moments look insignificant. They aren't, because every small decision is a vote for the person you are becoming, and eventually, those votes add up. You don't suddenly become disciplined one day. You become disciplined through thousands of small moments when you chose what matters over what feels good. That is the difference between having control over your life and merely reacting to it. And if you understand this, you begin to see why some people seem almost impossible to shake. They aren't emotionless. They aren't stronger because they never feel fear. They aren't immune to temptation. They simply stop treating every feeling as an instruction, and that changes everything. There is a reason comfort is so difficult to resist. It gives you the reward immediately, while sending the bill into the future. Skip the work today, and nothing terrible happens tonight. Spend the money, and you feel good for a moment. Avoid the difficult decision, and the pressure disappears temporarily. Stay in bed, and your body rewards you with comfort. This is why bad decisions can feel so good in the beginning. Their consequences are delayed, and good decisions often work in exactly the opposite way. Discipline demands payment now and delivers the reward later. Training hurts before it strengthens you. Saving feels restrictive before it creates freedom. Learning feels difficult before it creates competence. Silence feels uncomfortable before it protects your dignity. Patience feels slow before it produces results. This creates one of the oldest battles inside the human mind. The person you are today wants comfort. The person you could become needs sacrifice, and only one of them can control the next decision. The Stoics understood this battle intimately. Epictetus began life with almost no control over his external circumstances. He was born into slavery. His body was not entirely his own. His schedule was not entirely his own. His environment was not entirely his own. Yet from that brutal reality emerged one of the most powerful ideas in Stoic philosophy. There are things that belong to you and things that do not. Your reputation can be attacked. Your possessions can disappear. Your circumstances can change. Other people can misunderstand you. Fortune can turn against you, but your judgment, your choices, your response, these remain the territory where freedom begins. Think about the implications of that. A person can possess enormous wealth and still be controlled by desire. Another can possess very little and still command himself. A powerful man can be terrified of criticism. A poor man can remain completely unmoved by it. A famous person can become addicted to attention. An unknown person can live without needing anyone's approval. So who is actually free? The person with more options, or the person who can say no to himself? This is where modern definitions of freedom become dangerously incomplete. We often imagine freedom as the ability to do whatever we want, buy what we want, eat what we want, say what we want, watch what we want, go wherever we want. But if you cannot stop yourself, then unlimited choice does not make you free. It simply gives your impulses more opportunities to control you. Imagine a man who says, "I can stop whenever I want," but he never stops. He says he can put the phone down, but every few minutes his hand reaches for it. He says he doesn't care what people think, but one negative comment ruins his entire day. He says money doesn't control him, but every purchase is designed to impress someone else. He says he values his time, yet he gives hours of it away every night. Technically, no one is forcing him, but something is still controlling him. The chains are simply invisible. This is why Stoic discipline begins with observation. Before you can command yourself, you have to notice what is commanding you, what makes you react immediately, what temptation repeatedly defeats you, what discomfort are you constantly trying to escape. What do you know is damaging your life, yet continue doing anyway? Do not answer quickly. Watch yourself, especially when nobody is watching, because your private behavior reveals your real hierarchy of values. It is easy to speak about discipline. It is easy to admire Marcus Aurelius. It is easy to share quotes about strength. It is easy to say you want a better life. But your habits answer a more uncomfortable question. What are you actually willing to sacrifice for it? Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet much of what he wrote privately was not about conquering other people. It was about governing himself. He reminded himself to get out of bed when comfort tempted him to remain there. He warned himself against anger, against vanity, against distraction, against wasting the limited time given to him. Think about that. One of the most powerful men in the ancient world still had to argue with himself in the morning. Power did not eliminate temptation. Status did not eliminate laziness. Wisdom did not eliminate emotion. He still had to practice again and again and again. That is what most people misunderstand about discipline. They think disciplined people eventually reach a point where the difficult choice becomes effortless. Usually it doesn't. The alarm still rings, the temptation still appears, the fear still speaks, the easier option still exists. The difference is that disciplined people stop asking their feelings for permission. They create principles before the difficult moment arrives, because they know something crucial. You should not negotiate your future while under the influence of temporary emotion. Decide what matters when your mind is clear, then obey that decision when your feelings change. That is why rules can create freedom. A rule removes negotiation. I save this percentage of what I earn. No debate. I finish what I begin. No debate. I don't respond when I'm angry. No debate. I train even when motivation disappears. No debate. Every decision you make in advance removes one battlefield from tomorrow, and slowly something begins to change. The voice demanding comfort becomes weaker, not because it disappears, but because it learns that you are no longer its servant. You begin trusting yourself again. Your word starts meaning something. Your confidence becomes quieter because it no longer depends on motivation, and eventually you discover a form of strength that cannot be purchased. The ability to give yourself an order and know that you will obey it. But self-control becomes truly powerful when you understand one thing. Discipline is not punishment, it is protection. Every boundary you create today protects something valuable tomorrow. When you refuse an unnecessary purchase, you protect your future freedom. When you refuse to react in anger, you protect your reputation. When you refuse another hour of distraction, you protect your time. When you continue working after motivation disappears, you protect the future you said you wanted. And when you walk away from something that gives you pleasure but destroys your peace, you protect yourself. This changes the meaning of sacrifice. Most people see discipline as losing something. The Stoic sees discipline as choosing something greater. You are not losing an hour of entertainment. You are buying an hour of progress. You are not losing the ability to spend everything you earn. You are purchasing independence. You are not suppressing every angry response. You are refusing to hand another person control over your behavior. The question is no longer, what am I giving? The question becomes, what am I protecting? That question can completely change the way you experience discomfort. Seneca understood this deeply. Despite possessing wealth and influence during parts of his life, he deliberately practiced periods of simplicity. He would eat plain food, wear simple clothing, live with less comfort. Then ask himself whether this was really what he had feared. Why would someone voluntarily make life harder? Because Seneca understood that comfort becomes dangerous when you begin believing you cannot live without it. If you need luxury to feel successful, luxury owns you. If you need praise to feel valuable, other people own you. If you need constant entertainment to tolerate silence, stimulation owns you. If you need everything to go according to plan before you can remain calm, circumstances own you. The Stoic response was not to hate pleasure. It was to become capable of living without dependence on it. That distinction matters. You can enjoy comfort without needing comfort. You can appreciate money without worshipping money. You can enjoy recognition without requiring recognition. You can love people without surrendering your entire identity to their approval. You can possess things without allowing those things to possess you. That is self-mastery, and it cannot be faked. Imagine two men walking through a storm. The first has spent his entire life avoiding discomfort. Every room must be warm. Every meal must satisfy him. Every opinion must respect him. Every plan must work. Every inconvenience feels like an injustice. Then the storm arrives. Suddenly, the world refuses to cooperate. The rain falls. The road becomes difficult. The temperature drops. His plans collapse. And because he trained only for comfort, every inconvenience feels unbearable. The second man has trained differently. He has intentionally done difficult things. He has learned to wait. He has learned to hear criticism without immediately reacting. He has learned to work while tired. He has learned to delay pleasure. He has learned that discomfort is unpleasant, but not necessarily dangerous. The same storm hits both men, but it does not meet the same person. That is the hidden purpose of voluntary discomfort. You are not trying to suffer for the sake of suffering. You are teaching yourself, I can remain myself even when conditions are not ideal. That sentence is worth more than motivation, because motivation depends on conditions. Discipline survives them. And this principle reaches far beyond physical discomfort. Sometimes the hardest discomfort is silence. Not explaining yourself, not defending yourself, not replying immediately, not proving that you were right. Someone misunderstands you, and every part of your ego wants to respond. Someone insults you, and your mind begins preparing the perfect retaliation. Someone ignores your work, and you feel the urge to demand recognition. But then you remember, not every provocation deserves access to your energy. There are battles you win by refusing to enter them. There are people you defeat by refusing to become like them. There are insults that become powerless the moment you stop carrying them. This is where discipline becomes something deeper than productivity. It becomes dignity. Marcus Aurelius had enemies. He faced betrayal, political manipulation, war, disease, personal loss, and the enormous pressure of governing Rome. He could not control whether people lied about him. He could not control whether generals failed. He could not control disease spreading through the empire. He could not control death, but he repeatedly returned to the territory that remained his own conduct. That is the Stoic fortress. Not a place where nothing painful can reach you, a place inside yourself where pain does not automatically become corruption. Someone can insult you, but they cannot force you to become cruel. Someone can betray you, but they cannot force you to abandon your principles. You can lose money without losing character. You can lose status without losing dignity. You can lose an opportunity without losing direction. And once you understand that, the world becomes less frightening, because your confidence no longer comes from believing, nothing bad will happen to me. It comes from something far stronger. Whatever happens, I will decide who I become because of it. That is the difference between fragile confidence and disciplined confidence. Fragile confidence requires victory. Disciplined confidence can survive defeat. Fragile confidence needs applause. Disciplined confidence survives silence. Fragile confidence needs certainty. Disciplined confidence moves despite uncertainty. And this is why self-control changes more than your habits. It changes your relationship with the future. You stop needing life to guarantee that everything will work. You stop waiting until fear disappears. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop demanding perfect conditions. Instead, you begin asking a much more powerful question. What would the person I want to become do next? Then you do that, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because every time you choose principle over impulse, you are building someone, and eventually, the person you have been trying to become is no longer waiting somewhere in the future. He is the person making the decision. One day, you will realize that the hardest person you ever had to defeat was never your enemy. It was never the person who doubted you, never the person who betrayed you, never the person who refused to believe in you. It was the version of yourself that always wanted the easier path, the version that said tomorrow, the version that needed motivation before taking action, the version that chose temporary comfort and sent the consequences into the future. That person will follow you everywhere. You cannot escape him by changing cities. You cannot silence him by earning more money. You cannot defeat him with status. You cannot outrun him with success, because the battle is internal and it happens every single day, when the alarm rings, when temptation appears. When anger rises, when nobody is watching, when quitting would be easier than continuing, when doing the right thing offers no immediate reward. These moments rarely look important. There are no crowds, no applause, no dramatic music. No one congratulates you for closing your phone and returning to your work. No one sees the purchase you decided not to make. No one celebrates the angry message you chose not to send. No one knows how badly you wanted to quit, but continued anyway. Yet these invisible decisions are building your life, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. This is why discipline can feel lonely. The world usually sees the result, but almost never sees the restraint that created it. They see the successful business. They don't see the years of uncertainty. They see the strong body. They don't see the mornings when training felt impossible. They see financial independence. They don't see the thousands of purchases that were never made. They see confidence. They don't see the countless moments when fear was present and action happened anyway. Everyone wants the visible reward. Few people want the invisible price. But there is another reward that comes long before success. Something more important than money, more important than recognition, more important than status. You begin to respect yourself, not because you repeat positive words in front of a mirror, not because somebody tells you that you are powerful, but because you have evidence. You told yourself you would do something, and you did it. You wanted to quit, and you continued. You were angry, and you remained in control. You were tempted, and you walked away. You were afraid, and you moved forward. That evidence begins accumulating, slowly, quietly, until your relationship with yourself changes. You no longer need motivation to believe you can act. You have proof. You no longer need someone else to tell you that you are disciplined. Your behavior tells you you no longer need to announce what you are going to become. You are already becoming it. And perhaps this is what Marcus Aurelius understood better than almost anyone. He did not write his private reflections for an audience. He was not building a brand. He was not trying to impress history. Much of what we now call meditations was simply one man reminding himself, again and again and again, to live according to his principles. Why would an emperor need reminders? Because being powerful does not make you immune to weakness. Being intelligent does not make you immune to temptation. Knowing what is right does not guarantee that you will do it. Knowledge is only the beginning. Character is knowledge practiced under pressure. You can read every book on discipline ever written and still waste your life. You can memorize every Stoic quote and still lose control the moment someone insults you. You can understand money and still spend everything you earn. You can understand time and still waste years. Wisdom that never reaches behavior is decoration. The Stoics wanted something more. They wanted philosophy to become action, not something you talked about, something you lived. And that means the real test begins after this video ends, when the screen goes dark and nobody is speaking to you anymore. What will you do? Will you return to the same habits? Will you tell yourself that tomorrow will be different? Will you wait for another motivational video, another quote, another Monday, another year? Or will you make one decision tonight? That proves something has changed. It doesn't need to be dramatic. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. Save the money you are about to waste. Finish the work you have been avoiding. Put the phone down. Train. Read. Sleep when you said you would. Keep your mouth closed when anger wants to speak. Do one difficult thing, simply because you told yourself you would. Then tomorrow, do it again. This is how identity changes. Not through one enormous act of willpower, but through repeated evidence. Every disciplined action sends a message inward. I am no longer controlled by the feeling of the moment. And eventually, the message becomes belief. The belief becomes character. The character becomes your life. There will still be difficult days. There will still be mornings when you don't want to move. There will still be temptation, fear, anger, doubt. Comfort will never stop calling you, but eventually its voice becomes familiar. You recognize it, you hear, skip today, and you smile. Spend it. You wait, react, you remain silent, quit. You take another step. This is self-mastery, not destroying your emotions, not becoming cold, not becoming a machine. It is simply refusing to allow temporary feelings to make permanent decisions, because your future is being built by someone, either by the disciplined version of you or by the impulsive one. Every day, you decide which one gets stronger, and there may come a morning when you look at your life, your mind, your finances, your body, your character, and realize something extraordinary. The life you once struggled to build has become the life you naturally protect. Not because the world became easier, but because you became harder to control, harder to distract, harder to provoke, harder to tempt, harder to break. That is the freedom the Stoics were searching for, not freedom from responsibility, freedom from slavery to yourself. So when the next difficult choice arrives, don't ask, what do I feel like doing? Ask, who do I want to become? Then choose accordingly. Again and again and again. Until discipline is no longer something you practice. It is who you are.